All right. Good morning. I trust and I believe everyone is doing good. Friends and colleagues and everyone. Trust everyone is doing good. And we are going to continue our studies on Matthew chapter number 25, specifically verse 41, right? Yeah, verse 41, where it says that at the time of judgment, he will tell, a category of people to depart from me, you cursed, into the everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. And it seems like the word everlasting and the word devil and angels, get some people perplexed. When we inform them that this is a fulfilled text, because remember what you are talking about. This text even correlates with Matthew chapter number 7, verse 21, to 23 in most part. When it says that at the time of judgment, they will come to justify why the Lord should open them into the kingdom. And they will begin to say that in your name we did this, in your name we did that, in your name we did that. Okay, we exercise evil spirit and so on and so forth. But at that time, the Lord is going to tell them that you people of iniquity, depart from me, you people of iniquity. I did not know you. The same is true for Luke chapter number 13, verse 26 to 29, when the master of the house arose and shut the door, and it says that you, that is reference to the Jews who come knocking at the door, and he's going to tell them that, look, I did not know you, you workers of iniquity. Then they also will justify why they should again be made to enter into the kingdom. It says that in your presence, you taught in our streets, we drank and ate in your presence. But he's going to tell them that I did not know you. Depart from me, you people of iniquity. You see, this is one and the same judgment, and this is one judgment specifically to the Jews. This is Jewish judgment. Jesus Christ was communicating with people who were around at the time. He was speaking to the Jews, and all these things were things that were to come upon them. But it's like, we tend to take the audience, we just take them and throw them somewhere and begin to read ourselves into this ancient text so that it becomes like, as if Jesus Christ was speaking to us, in our time. No, but understand that there were some people Jesus Christ, communicated this to, and upon these people will come this judgment. So Matthew chapter number 25, verse 41, Matthew chapter number 7, verse 21 to 27, and Luke chapter number 13, 26 to 29 is one and the same judgment. But in the first video that we recorded, we turned to the same book, the same book of Matthew, chapter number 13, and verse 41 to 42. And he said that, that was part one. And so we are going to continue with the part two. All right. So in chapter 13, Matthew chapter number 13, let's start at verse 41. Now, verse 41, it says that the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of his kingdom all things that offend and those who practice lawlessness. I believe that this is the second coming of Christ text, or second coming of Christ statement, right? Because the Lord is descending with his saints. This is also true for Matthew chapter number 16, verse 27 and verse 28. Now, when you honor, because you see, or else it will be like, the same book, they are about 10 times, second coming of Christ. If you think that the return of the Lord in Matthew chapter number 24 is different from the return of the return of the Lord in Matthew chapter number 13, Matthew chapter number 24, Matthew chapter number 10, Matthew chapter number 26, and Matthew chapter number 16. It is one and the same second coming of Christ. There was nothing like chapter division when the books were written originally. There was nothing like that. It was one whole book. But yet, this is what people want us to believe, that look, this judgment belongs to this time, but this judgment belongs to this time. Does that actually make sense? And they're going to tell you that look, you have to be, acquaint yourself with the context. Okay, well, I understand. What context are these things? Are these eschatological passages found? They are in that parousia, context, the return of the Lord context. But they are trying to tell us that the coming of the Lord with his angels in judgment is different from some, some end time passages, if you please. But I don't believe that. It is one and the same, one coming of the Lord. But anyway, so in verse 42 it says that now when there's all those who practice lawlessness, if you are well acquainted with this, man of lawlessness, Luke chapter 22, 51, 52, you Israel were charged for being ones responsible for lawlessness and so on and so forth. Now, but it says that in verse 42, will cast them into the furnace of fire. So those people, that is the Jews, they are going to be cast into furnace of fire. Now, when you come to Matthew chapter number 25 and verse 41, that is also the same second coming of Christ context, because in verse 31, it says that the Lord is going to come and to sit upon a throne to judge, right? So that is second coming of Christ context. But in verse 41, it says that, and he will also say to those on his left hand, depart from me, you cursed, into everlasting fire prepared for the devil and his angels. Now, is the fire of furnace, which is also in the context of Matthew chapter number 3, for devil and Satan and his minions, different from this. These are the constituent element in that text. It says that the angels question, our God, that look, who sold these seeds among your field. It says that it was the Satan, it was the wicked one who did this. It was the devil, the opposer, the accuser who did this. And it says that, look, they are going to be gathered and set ablaze in that furnace of fire. What we have here, who are those who are going to be put in that furnace of fire? Which he believed that this has been fulfilled in Matthew chapter number 13, has been fulfilled. It was Satan, devil, and his minions. His angels are just the messengers, right? And in verse 41 of Matthew chapter number 24, it still speaks of the same devil and his angels. But they are looking for this creepy kind of humanoid people, individual called Satan and so on and so forth. Now, was it a literal being that spoke to, was it a literal snake that spoke with Eve in the garden? Who was this? Who was this Satan? Right. Anyway, you address the Satan and his angels component. It just, you just want to approach it in this manner. I just picked up some constituent element and, to see what that actually, implies, in terms of those judgment, or in terms of the judgment. Now, so I believe that the Satan, the angels, the devil of Matthew chapter number 13 is the same Satan or devil and his angels of Matthew chapter number 25 and verse 41. And that furnace of fire is the same apocalyptic term for this everlasting fire Jesus Christ used here. You see, it was the same person speaking to the same audience, the same Jewish audience in the first century. You understand? That is that. It's the same person, the same audience. But we will try to take the audience out and put ourselves there so that it becomes like something that is going to, come in the near future. But anyway, let's go there and see what is there. So in chapter 13 of Matthew chapter number Matthew chapter number 13, let's look at verse 43. But remember, it says that he will cast them into. Now, the time of the casting out occurred in 70 AD, by the way, because remember, the time when Abraham and Isaac will be raised to sit down with the Lord in the kingdom will be the time when the Jews will be cast out. And that cast out or cast down of the apostate Israel occurred in 70 AD. So what it means is that Matthew chapter number 13 also occurred in 70 AD. Now, because it says that this is also taking place at the end of the age. The end of the age was the Jewish age and not the Christian age. Anyway, so let's see what we have here. In verse 43, it says that then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their father. So that will be the time of inheriting the kingdom. What do we have in Matthew chapter number 25, verse 41, 31 to 46? It says that those on the left hand will be made to enter into that furnace of fire or the everlasting fire. However, the you know the righteous will be made to inherit the kingdom. In verse 34 of Matthew 25, it says that you come and inherit the kingdom prepared for you, before the foundation of the world. And here, what is happening here? After the wicked, the devil, Satan, these entities have been cast into the furnace of fire. It is now the time for the saint to possess the kingdom. But this is taking place at the end of the old covenant age, what we call the Jewish age. Okay, but that possession of the kingdom, entering into the kingdom and possessing the kingdom, those on the right, the righteous on the right hand, being made to inherit the kingdom, is that quote from the prophet. Okay, so we shall go to Daniel to see where Daniel made this prediction. And so let's see in Daniel chapter number 7. In Daniel chapter number 7, what do we have here? Let's start at verse, for the sake of time, let's start at verse 21. Okay, but this it speaks of the ancient of time, ancient of days, the coming of the ancient of days, and to make judgment against that little horn who was making war against the saint of Most High God, and also prevailing against them. Okay, he was killing them, he was defeating them until the ancient of days came. But when the ancient of days came, okay, judgment was made in favor of the saints and against that little horn. And you remember it was Old Covenant Israel who were responsible, or the Israelites who were responsible for killing the saint of Most High God in Matthew chapter number 23, verse 31 to 37, 38, for most part. Okay, so that little horn is entity representing the old covenant, apostate Israel. They were the one responsible, for this atrocity that was committed against the saint of Most High. But so the ancient of days came. Now that is the second coming of Christ. If you read Revelation chapter number 1, I believe verse 14, you realize that ancient of days was the son of man. But whatever he is, or whatever it is a divine being. Okay, the divine entity, if you please. But this is what is happening. So in verse 21, it said that I was watching, and the same horn, that is the little horn, making war against the saints and prevailing against them. Right? So this was the war which broke out in heaven. This is the war which ensued in the first century, prior to the return of the Lord, to destroy those who were, persecuting the church. Okay? You know how Paul and the first century church suffered this tribulation, okay, for the cause of the gospel, for the promotion of the gospel, and also for their, faith as being Christian. Now, if you read Revelation chapter number 20, I believe verse 4, it's going to tell you the reason why they suffered this tribulation, where they suffered this, mess from the unbelieving Jews. And the Lord, Paul says that the Lord is going to come a second time to destroy those who persecuted you, the church in Thessalonica, as in 2 Thessalonians chapter number 1, verse 6 through to 8, with the background of from Act chapter number 17, verse 1 to 30. Realize that it was unbelieving Jews who were responsible for killing the saints and doing all these things against them. And so this is what is going to happen on the day of judgment, okay, which of course is past and gone. Those who did this wicked against the saint of Most High God are going to be made to enter into this furnace of fire. They are going to be cast into, this fire. In other words, they are going to be destroyed. Okay, and that is what happened on the day of 70 AD, when they were destroyed and their bodies were dumped in Gehenna for burning, for destruction. And that Gehenna is what is erroneously called hell in the Bible. But the real term is Gehenna, or Valley of Son of Ben Hinnom. But anyway, we shall get there. But this is what is happening. You have to understand the correlation between the old and the new, so that when you get there, you just don't read it in the way that you've been made to, believe or taught in the Bible college by a mere mortal man. And sometimes people think that maybe they were taught by maybe Shupahima. No, they are just mere mortal man. They are only telling you what they have been, what they understand the text to be. That is all. That is all what they do. They don't do anything different. God also give you brains to also reason, to sit down and to do the correlations and interlinear and so on and so forth. Now, and so he's saying that, and the little one was making a war against them and prevailing against them. But in verse 22, he said, until the ancient of day came, and judgment was made in favor of the saint of Most High, and the time came for the saint to possess the kingdom. This is Matthew chapter number 25, verse 34, which is also in connection with the coming of the Lord in his kingdom to make this judgment, to execute this judgment. The Lord is going to come in his kingdom to sit upon a throne to execute this judgment. It will be the time when the saint will possess the kingdom. So how do you honor, some aspect of a passage has been fulfilled and still believe that some component has not been fulfilled, when that all what is happening there hinges upon the coming of the Lord in his kingdom, of which the Lord said that would take place in the first century, before those people have all died, in Luke chapter number 16, 27 and 28. You see, you have to understand the correlation. But they're going to say that no, it does not correlate. This one is for this one is for that. Who gave you the authority to do that division? No, you cannot dare do that. It is one and the same. The same Jesus Christ, the same audience, the same subject matter. All right, so that is the time of possession of the kingdom. Those on the right hand side, they will be made to receive the kingdom. They will be told to possess the kingdom prepared for you aforetime. Right now, for the sake of time, as I said, now again, when you continue the study, you see how this pompous, this little horn is, and that is also Second Thessalonians chapter number 2. That the man of lawlessness. Just do the comparison, and you realize that the man of sin is what Daniel has foretold will come. Now, but in verse 27, it says that after this little horn has been destroyed, the one responsible for killing the saint of Most High God in the first century, Old Covenant, Jerusalem or Israel have been destroyed. Then verse 29, then the kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of the kingdom under the whole heaven shall be given to the people, the saint of Most High. His kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him. Now, are you saying that this is different from Matthew chapter number 25, verse 34? Or you just don't understand the two, how to relate the two testaments? Anyway, I am suggesting to you that is the case. But anyway, let's go back to Matthew chapter number 13, because we are going to continue from there today. In Matthew chapter number 13, as we have already read a portion of it, I was just trying to give you that text so that it will help you to understand what is happening in Matthew chapter number 25. Now, so in verse 41, or where I think in verse 42, Matthew chapter 13, verse 42. Okay, so now it says that he will cast them into furnace of fire, and there, what is going to happen there? They are going to be wailed. There's going to be wailing and gnashing of teeth. Now, is it not the same thing taking place in Matthew chapter number 25, verse 41? Those who are going to be made to, or those who are going to be put into that everlasting fire there, is it different from those who are going to be put into this fire of furnace where they will be wailing and gnashing teeth? You know why? Because they fail to admit that this is 70 AD. On one hand, they believe that Matthew chapter number 13 is 70 AD, because all the whatever you read here is exactly what took place in that judgment. But they believe that what is happening there, at least for the mentioning of the Satan and his angels, he believe that has not been fulfilled. But I will demonstrate to him that, look, this has been fulfilled. Understand what Satan and these angels is all about. We shall talk about devil or Satan. All right, now. But what is happening here is that where I want to talk about where the shining for. Okay, now verse 43. It says that then after this judgment is the time of blessings. Okay, it said that then the righteous will shine forth as the sun in the kingdom of their Father. This is the time of possession of the kingdom. That is why whenever you see the second coming of Christ, you see the kingdom. Okay, because that will be the time of the saint possessing the kingdom. Right, in Luke chapter number 21, verse 27, we see the cloud coming of the Lord, and in verse 31, correlated or tied to the time of the reception of the kingdom, because that is the time of possession of the kingdom. After all, the kingdom was to be established in judgment. Isaiah 9:7, Daniel 2:45 or 9, 42, 40, 44, 45, and that is Luke chapter number 21, in the context of the fall of Jerusalem judgment. Anyway, so they are going to they are going to shine forth as sun in the kingdom of their Father. Now, where he is again, Jesus is quoting this from Daniel, and so in Daniel chapter number 12. No, let's start at verse 1, so that you will see that the furnace of fire, the wailing and gnashing of teeth, Satan, the devil, the wicked one, who will suffer this judgment, is a quote from Daniel chapter number 12. And that is also Matthew chapter number 25. We just have to open up our mind. Just don't close your mind to one literature that you've been made to believe. But in Daniel chapter number 12, it says that at that time, Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stand watch over the sons of your people. And there shall be a time of trouble, right? Remember, the wicked are going to be destroyed. Some people are going to suffer troubles, and these troubles is going to be imposed upon them by some unbelieving Jews. But at the end of the day, their tears are going to be turned into joy. Remember John chapter number 16, I believe verse 20, where he said that for now you weep. Okay, while the world rejoice. That is the world in which we live in now, in which they lived in. That is the first century Jewish world, right? At that time, they are going to wail, they are going to weep, they are going to shed tears because of the tribulation that they will be subjected to by the unbelieving Jews. But at the same time, their tears are going to be wiped away. Why? Because the Lord is going to come to destroy those who has caused them this trouble, those who has caused them this tears, caused them to tear. The Lord will come to repay them with tribulation. Paul said that it is a righteous thing for God to repay with tribulation those who trouble you, the Thessalonians. Who were those who were troubling the Thessalonians? It was unbelieving Jews. In Acts chapter number 17, they were the ones. Upon these people will the Lord come as a flaming fire again, taking vengeance. It will be the time of vengeance. He's going to avenge for the blood of his martyrs. So he says that at this time you tears, while the world rejoice. But your tears shall turn into joy when I come to avenge for your sorrows. And Jesus Christ said that in a little while, John chapter number 16, verse 16, in a little while, the apostles will not see him, and in a little while, the apostles will see him because he goes to the Father. So the going of the Father and the coming down, all will take place before all of the apostles have died. Jesus Christ said that if I wait that John live till I come, what is that to you? I believe John chapter number 21, verse 18 to 24 or so, right? And also in Matthew chapter number 10, verse 22 to 23, it says that the Jews will not have gone through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes. The apostles will not have gone through the cities of Old Covenant Israel before the Son of Man comes. So at least Jesus Christ posited his return within the days of the apostles. At least some of them will be alive until he comes. So you cannot be walking today to talk about something that has already been fulfilled. But anyway, and so he says that this is what is going to happen. It will be the time of trouble. Now, this is also called the Jacob trouble in Jeremiah chapter number 30, verse 6 and verse 7. What we call the Jacob's trouble is the one and the same trouble. Now, this trouble, Jesus Christ said that has no rival. It has never occurred again, neither would it ever occur again. That is spoken in the context of the fall of Jerusalem in Matthew chapter number 24, verse 31. So what we are reading here is what Jesus Christ reiterated in Matthew chapter number 24, which of course was the case in the first century when the apostles suffered this, great tribulation. But such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time, and at that time, your people, that is the people of the Lord, the people of the Messiah, will be delivered. Everyone whose name is written in the book. And by the way, this is the book of life, okay? And it says that there will be a time of deliverance. Now, when is the deliverer going to come? When is the Christ going to come? He said that the deliverer will come out of Zion. And when he comes, what is he going to do? He's going to turn away the iniquity of Jacob. Romans chapter number 11, verse 23, 24 to 27. It is there. The purpose for which Christ is coming a second time is the time of salvation. The turning away of iniquity is the time of, or the day of salvation, or time of salvation. But in verse 2, it says that, but in verse 2, it said that as many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life and some to everlasting contempt. Now, is this not Matthew chapter number 25, verse 41? Some to everlasting life, some to everlasting shame. Is that not it? Was Jesus not quoting Daniel chapter number 2, verse 12? Right? So you see, just don't focus on the New Testament and neglect the source text. The source text will tell you the time frame within which many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life and some to everlasting shame, or some to shame and everlasting contempt. Will those people not be sent into everlasting fire, and others to everlasting everlasting fire is also everlasting contempt. Okay, Jesus Christ, tended to use the everlasting fire, but Daniel used everlasting contempt. It is one and the same. But in any case, remember in Matthew chapter number 13, verse 43, when it says that the righteous will shine as sun in the kingdom of God, will shine forth as sun in the kingdom of God. That is also a quote from this same passage, chapter. But what I want to tell you is that Matthew chapter number 25, verse 41 is Daniel chapter number 12, verse 2. Leave it or leave it. Leave it or take it or leave it. You cannot just skate around it, no matter what you do. Whether you like it or not, that is that. And the Bible, Daniel told us the time frame for which Daniel chapter number 12 and 2 will be fulfilled. And I'm going to point that out to you so that you will realize that Matthew chapter number 25 was also 70 AD text. You don't admit that the coming of the Lord with his angel and everything in Matthew chapter number 24 is different from Matthew chapter number 25, when there was no division originally when the Bible was written. It was just one book. So there was a coming of the Lord in Matthew chapter 24, a different coming of the Lord in Matthew chapter number 25, and a different coming of Christ in Matthew chapter number 20. So how does it make sense? No, that is not the way to behave. You have to behave as someone with brains to reason. To reason on your own, to draw your own conclusion and understanding. I'm just about to conclude, but. So it says that is what is going to take place. But I will, come on this, maybe perhaps in the subsequent, broadcast or recording. Now in verse 3, those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, and those who turn away many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. Is it not Matthew chapter number 13, verse 43, right? The shining forth in the kingdom, the time of possession of the kingdom, the time of possessing the kingdom, when they are going to shine forth like suns in the kingdom. Is it not a quote from Daniel chapter number 12, verse 3, which is also Matthew chapter number 25? But when did Daniel say that the resurrection from the dust of the earth the shining forth like firmament, like star, the brightness in the kingdom will take place. And in verse 7, it says that Daniel 12:7. Then I heard the man clothed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, when he held up his right hand and his left hand to heaven, and swore by him who lives forever, that it shall be for a time, times, and half a time. Now, I believe if you read Daniel chapter number 4, time is a year, half a time is half a year, and time, that is 2 years. So that is 3.5 years or 42 months. Oh, well, that was the duration of the war. The 70 AD war, AD 66 to AD 70. That was the time, 3.5 years, right? So what we are talking about is within the context of the Jewish-Roman war, Judo-Roman war, which ended in 70 AD, lasted for about 3.5 years. That is what we are talking about here. So that time when those who sleep in the dust of the earth will be caused to rise to sit down in the kingdom is when Jerusalem is destroyed. Exactly what Jesus Christ has stated. The time when Abraham, Jacob, and Isaac will rise to sit down in the kingdom is when the Jews are cast out into that outer darkness, where they will be wailing and gnashed teeth, into that furnace of fire, into that everlasting fire. Everything belongs to them. You just don't pick up things and think, because you have seen Satan and devil there, you think that, well, this has not been fulfilled. I will show you what that means. But anyway, it says that, now let's continue. And when the power of the holy people has completely shattered, and all these things shall be finished. The Torah, alongside the temple, was the Jewish power. It was their authority. So the shutting of that, power, or the temple and the Torah, of course, the burning of the temple or the burning of the Torah, was the time when their power was completely shattered. It was shattered in 70 AD. That was when those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, and some to everlasting shame and contempt, or everlasting shame, some to shame and everlasting contempt. That was that. But it was also the time of the possession of the kingdom, when the saints will shine forth, the righteous will shine forth. Those on the right hand of God will be shined forth, will be made to possess the kingdom, to shine forth in it, as firmament, as the sun in the kingdom. That occurred in 70 AD. Okay, I will have to end here because I think my time is overly over. So we have to end here. But what I am trying to tell you is that Matthew chapter number 25, verse 31 to 46 does not stand in isolation. They are actually a quote from the Old Testament. But the Old Testament gave us that time frame within which that will be fulfilled. And it says that when the power, the duration is 3.5 years, the duration of the Judo-Roman war, when the power of the holy people will completely be shattered. And that was shattered in 70 AD. You cannot go around it. All right.